Okay, welcome. Good morning, everybody. It's Wednesday, August 14th, and it's Markets in the Morning with me. Or should I start to say Matsby's Morning? Maybe that's what it should be called, because I think Blockchain Backer already has Markets in the Morning, so maybe Blockchain Backer would be good. Sorry, Markets in the Morning is not good, and Matsby's Mornings can be better. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that. But you can join my Patreon below. There's the link in the banner. And I think lots of people are taking interest in it. So doing daily updates, doing weekly updates, doing all that stuff to keep you guys in the game and understanding where markets are going. Okay, so that will lead me to let's just start with the NQ. I guess there was a CPI that was in line and kind of a nothing. It was just boring, right? So nothing exciting. So what does that mean for the markets? Well, you can see by zooming in here, you can see that it is moving up to resistance, even more resistance. It's back above the baseline, but it's going towards the conversion line up there, and that's at 19,167. Oh, good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Yeah, so 19,16738, and that is looking like it's getting there today. So the Nasdaq futures look like really approaching resistance. Not sure if this week is going to break above it, but if it does, that'll be a really bullish sign. So just keep an eye on that on the futures level of 19167. And when you go to the QQQ, that number is 46349. So let's keep an eye on that throughout the week. And if a weekly candle closes above that for QQQ, then I will be back more bullish. But right now, I'm a little more cautious, simply because it's approaching resistance, and I think that there's a chance that there could be a little bit of a pullback before price continues higher. So just got to pay attention to those levels right there. And if I take a look at the SPY pre-market, that is up on 1 point, and that is already above the conversion line. That's already looking good. So this could be foreshadowing of what the QQQ really wants to do, right? So maybe we'll see a good explosive move past that resistance, since the SPY is already above it, and it looks like it wants to continue higher. And if it closes the week above that 537.71 level, which is currently above, I do believe that price will continue higher, and that will be a great sign for a continuation. But there will still be some resistance with the previous high here in the 560s, maybe 65 was the highest point. I don't think it's just going to explode past that. So as price goes up, it could be creating maybe a lower high from here, and then possibly just roll over back and retest the support wherever that might be at the time. So good development for SPY. If this is a foreshadowing event of the QQQ, then that would be great. What about the SMH here? Yeah, the SMH is still kind of stuck under everything, right? It's not as bullish as the SPY or the QQQ. Essentially, pre-market is 238.45, and that baseline does sit at 238.40. So this is a weekly candle. There's still 3 days left, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, of trading, and has those days to break above it, but got to be a little bit more cautious with this one, because it's basically the pre-market price is exactly really at a resistance level. So got to see if it can really break above. And just using the GAN up there, even if it breaks above those conversion baseline, you can see the GAN arc is going to get in the way, and that kind of sits right there at 256 for the SMH. But the great news about it, it maintained the bottom arc. So you can see right here, it was a resistance, and that open and then close above means it's still a support. Even that 45-degree angle, which you can see right there, was also important support. It's back above support. So this chart is still really bullish. It's just going to take some time to maybe build it strength in the wedge to continue higher up towards the resistance above in the 250s or even the 260s above. And IWM, let's see. Yeah, it's up 115, 209.12. That's pre-market. And again, similar situation as the SMH under all the indicators of resistance for the Ichimoku. By all, I mean the baseline and the conversion line. So that's only two, not all of them. And yeah, same situation. So I want to really watch that 209.99 level going into the weekly close, maybe 210, to see if it can close above. And then that will be a similar situation to what we see the QQQ doing, where it's in between both the conversion line and the baseline there. Good morning, Jules. So, hi, Matt. Can we get your thoughts on Bitcoin when you get a chance? Yeah, I can talk about Bitcoin since the market's not open. Let's see. Bitcoin right around 61,000. So, Bitcoin is just doing what I've been saying it's probably going to do, right? It's underneath the baseline now. It's been there for 2 weeks now. And that means that the 61,686 level is really strong resistance at the current moment. And this is a weekly candle, so there's still essentially 5 days left until Sunday. This weekly candle closes Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern time. And if it can close above that, then I can be a lot more bullish again. But so far, you can see it keeps hitting it. It's wicking above. It hits it, but it cannot break above. So you can just see how strong of a resistance that is. And then even after that, Bitcoin on my linear scale chart, there is that same level, 61,300 that I've been saying right there, is going to be even more resistance too, which is even before that conversion line or baseline. So this is why you're seeing more selling pressure under that 61,000 level, which is why price is really having a tough time breaking above because of these levels right there. And I think the GAN level is kind of a big deal just because you look to the past right here. You can see that it wicked so many times down below it as support in the past, and now it's below it, right? So now it's like wicking above it so many times. So this is proof that these GAN levels are really, really strong and maybe even stronger than the Ichimoku. So ultimately, I don't really care too much about that 61,686. I care more about my orange level of 61,300 for Bitcoin. I want to see a weekly candle close back above it. And if that happens, then it can build a base on top of it again and probably continue higher. But is it going to go much higher after that 61.3? Well, that's when the log scale level comes into handy, right? That's why you got to use both of these sometimes. And that is the 62,400 level. And that's going to be even more resistance. So ultimately, 61.3 is great, but even better would be the 62.4 just to close on top of that, because the log scale is also showing its very important level. And once that happens, once it can really build a base on top of it and really flip it back to support, then I think there has a chance to really take off and get to the 100,000s. And you see the 100,000s here, up here in the arcs, right? The 110,000s. But first, there's a series of resistance levels like that 61, 62 level. Then you got this blue angle right here around 71. Now it's around 71,400. Yeah. So essentially, it's not going to explode all the way up there until it can flip this angle to a support, which it really hasn't done ever, right? Since it got to the all-time high, it really hasn't flipped it to support. It tried to get above it one time, but it failed. And essentially just waiting on that. So these two levels are really important, like that 61, 62,000 zone and this 71,300, 400 zone as well. Yeah, that was a lot about Bitcoin. So good afternoon for you, Daniel. And good afternoon. Yes. Good morning, Matt. Moin moin. Tesla at resistance. Let's take a look at the Tesla. It's funny how everybody was like scared about CPI and then it's just nothing. Like, I think news narratives really don't matter. The charts, if they're back around support levels, then they're not really going to matter. If they're breaking support levels, then they're probably going to go lower, and then the news narratives is going to hurt them. So that's always been my belief. And the opposite too, if it's breaking resistance and the news narratives are going to help them. So I just think the CPIs are kind of ridiculous, or all the other stuff. Whoever makes it, they probably make it however they wanted to make it anyways. It could not even be real. So it's back above my 198.43 level for Tesla. And it's back above the baseline, which is 204.90. So I want to see that hold. I really want to see that hold going into the weekly close. And that's really all I care about mostly is that 205 level. Because if that's the case, then that just looks like the QQQ, where it's back above some support there, and then it's going to be battling the cloud and whatnot. So I think that is fine, right? It's really fine to close above there, but any more strength would be great, right? And I want to see ultimately get back up above the 382, the 221 level. But you can see the conversion line sits at 224, and the bottom of the cloud is exactly the same price. So not sure if it can get there immediately, but let me go to the lower time frames just to show you. So 206.93, that is the daily conversion line, and price is at 208.95. So I can consider that if candle does open above it, I'm going to consider that conversion line as a daily support now. So before it gets down to that 205 level, it has to break that 206.93 level. So I'm going to consider that to be support for the day. Could wick below a little bit, but I think the day is probably going to close above it. And I can see price go up towards the cloud into the 213s, maybe even the 214s or above, right? But the bottom of the cloud does sit around 212. So that could be the max, or maybe 213. That could be the max height for today because there is some resistance. But here on the 4-hour chart, you can see that there's really no resistance above anymore for the 4-hour chart. So I can see that the bottom of that cloud does sit around 205. So we can see maybe price get down there. But I still think that conversion line I mentioned around 206.89, I think that'll stop it before it gets down there. So that'll be a good sign. But essentially, this is clear to go to the top of the cloud on the 4-hour chart. And that kind of sits at 219. So just be aware of this situation that it is above the resistance levels here and it's free to go. So I think I do like that. And I mentioned last night on the call with Kat and Tracker that the Bollinger Bands are starting to squeeze and they're starting to expand. And they're starting to expand because price on the 4-hour chart keeps pushing against them and it's making the bottom and the top expand, which is really a good situation. And you really haven't seen that since maybe back here during this time, right? In June 27th of 2024. And last time that happened, it really took off. So, but the difference there is it was above the cloud and the cloud was green, but here it's in the cloud. So possibly it won't do the same kind of move because there's still resistance above. But the point I'm making is that on the 4-hour Ichimoku, there really is no more resistance above. And that means it's clear to go up to the 219. But on the daily chart, it's really going to get in the way of the bottom of the cloud, maybe around 212. So I do expect some positive price action today. And I think that the 206, 207 down to the 205 zone should be good support for Tesla right now. Oh, good morning. Good morning. So let's see what's next. Can I do NVIDIA? Yeah, I can do NVIDIA. I'll do NVIDIA before I do those cryptos. So again, I'll start with NVIDIA on the 4-hour, on the daily chart. I mean, it's back above everything. It's back above the 20-day average of the Bollinger Band. It's above the conversion line, or sorry, the baseline of 113.42. And that also leads more room to go to the top of the cloud. There's really no more resistance above until it gets to the 125 zone on the daily chart. So this is a good setup for price to continue higher. And now I think the 113 zone could be a good support right here for NVIDIA. And if we take a look at the weekly chart, you can see it's even going back above nicely of the conversion line. So that's even less resistance above until it gets to the previous highs up here. So I think it's going back to the 120s, maybe even 125. That's the direction it looks like it wants to go because this recovery has been really strong and really healthy and nothing really to worry about at all. So this one, yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. Okay. Next is okay. Yeah, let's take a look at some of those cryptos for us. We'll start with QNT. Quant. Where's my quant? Yeah. So I'm gonna start by taking everything off here of quant. Actually, I'm gonna use log scale charts because I like that better right now for the crypto. So let me just take everything off. And for quant, the symmetry has been beautiful, and it did during that panic right there. It did retest the 45-degree angle for the first time on log scale ever. So I think that is support. I think support's found, and not only that, when you look to the left, it's a higher low from this. So it looks like this is the new bottom. And all it has now is all the resistance above. So essentially, the next target for me would be around the 70s to flip that arc to a support. Then the next target would be the 96 and so on and so forth. But you don't really need to use any other indicator really to see what's going on. That is support. But if you do turn on the Ichimoku here, you can see that it's still below the conversion line, which is adding to selling pressure to resistance. So that's 66.79. Can't really get excited about it until it gets on the top side of that, because look how many weeks below it has been. It's been since April since it's been below. So it's probably a matter of time before flip it back to a support. But until that happens, I can't really be excited. But at least I know where support is for this one. It looks good. And similar for the DAG chart, you can see that it's also back to an angle of support. And just looking at it, it's barely hanging on there. So will it hold, or will it go back down to the next angle? That's anybody's guess really at this point. But essentially it's the same situation, that it's not really a bullish situation, because look at how far away from the conversion line is. That's really at 3 cents. I mean, the good news is it could go back to 3 cents in a quickness, and then everybody gets excited, whatever, and then it just hits resistance, then goes back down, right? So it could go up violently, but essentially it could just go back down too, because it's kind of like a falling knife. And this previous support now was flipped to resistance. So every time price comes back up to that level, it's going to get rejected because it lost that support, and that support was very important. So something to point out, this is a bearish market structure right here now. Nothing bullish about this chart anymore. And the next one, VXV. VXV is a similar situation, right? I don't have a GAN for this one, but at least it hasn't made a lower low from here. So that's the positive, but it's basically just a straight line down, but still below the conversion line. Can't really get excited about it until it gets back above 36.6. And if that happens, then it's a possibility to go higher. But if not, it could just drift lower to these lows down here around the 21-cent zone. So just keep your eye on that. And yeah, I'll look at Clean Spark. Oh, what do you think of NXRA after its second hack? Well, I think NXRA, where is my NXRA? I think I just had it. Yeah, there it is. I think it's fine. I mean, it's doing the same thing as like DAG, really. It just lost low from here, and now there's lots of resistance above. But I think the resistance, it can get back to 6 cents up here and get rejected, but essentially it's still following a bearish market. Like even with or without the hack, it doesn't matter, because it couldn't get back above the conversion line for a long time. So if it can't get above resistance, it's going to go retest support levels. And it just went lower than support and lost it, right? That's all it did. So with or without a hack, it doesn't even matter. It was going to go down anyways, because it could not break that resistance. And let's see, MU. Micron. Yeah, we got 8 minutes for the market open. So Micron is essentially Yeah, it almost hit the arc as support. I really wanted it to touch it, but it never did. So yeah, it's interesting. But I do like the symmetry. I like how it's above the cloud still. I like how it's kind of far away from the baseline and conversion line. That means it has some room to go up, right? And pre-market is back at 100, and the baseline does sit at 118. But is it going to go there in a straight line? No, it's not. But the good news is on the daily chart, it's starting to open. It's going to open a daily candle back above the conversion line. That kind of means it wants to maybe go back to 110. So I could see that happening for Micron just floating up there, but that's the next resistance level for Micron. Let's see. Yeah, fat chin. You tried to draw a Gann chart for LOAR, and it jumped past. Yeah, that just means that it's not the right ratios. I mean, I do have a course all about it if you wanted to take it. Just it can't be random, and you can't really use it by eye. It has to really be symmetrical. So the only way to do that, especially on log scale, is to do the correct ratios, and essentially it becomes more mathematical that way. But I can take a look at lore. I haven't drawn this before, so I don't have a GAN. But yeah, essentially if it goes beyond it, you need to rescale it. So on the daily chart, really bullish. Weekly chart, there's really no indicators. It's really a young chart, so it's difficult to chart these anyways when you use GAN. Usually more data is better, and when it has less data, it's a little bit more difficult. So let's just rely on the 4-hour indicators, and I'm going to just say that the support now is going to be around 67 because it looks like it kind of might be topping out there and could roll over to retest support after this giant 17% 4-hour candle. So I mean, breakouts like this get me a little weary just because they do like to backtest levels before they broke out, and that level there could even be the baseline down there at 64 cents or $64. So that's a possibility, but it's really too new for me to really get an accurate analysis on it. But it is bullish. I do like it, even though it's new. I do like it because it could continue higher, but I do see a backtest possible of that $65 zone. And let's look at Google. Google. Where is Google? All right, so Google on the 4-hour chart battling the cloud. That's all you got to see. It's not really ready yet, but there could be enough time. There could be enough time today to maybe get back into the cloud. Just maybe let this 4-hour candle and maybe the next 4-hour candle could get up there, right? So it's almost past this resistance right here of the 163 zone. So got to keep an eye on that, right? Um, yeah, just essentially, it's not ready yet. And on the daily chart, you can see why too. There's more confluence of that resistance right there at 164 of the conversion line. It's not going to open a candle above it, and it's going to actually open a candle lower than that. So that's just proof that this is even more resistance, right? I was talking about this yesterday in the live stream, how this is resistance. And I was saying that if it got back there, it's going to be resistance. So that's exactly what happened. And now that's why it's going lower, because it can't break it, right? I always say if it can't break resistance, it's going to go lower. And someone was asking for Rose. Is a crypto? Yeah. It's not this one, right? Not the LSE. Yeah. The London Stock Exchange. The crypto Rose. Okay. Yeah, daily chart's looking better. It's back above the conversion line, so that could lead to possibility to go back to 7 cents to the baseline on the daily chart. On the weekly chart, you can see it's really far away from the conversion line, so it has some room to go up there, but it's got to go through the daily indicators first. But being on the top side of this is a positive sign. If it does ever get back below it, then just be cautious because it could retest the lows down there around 5 0.7 cents. All right. Good morning, Vintage Lee. Yeah. So QUBIC tether. Yeah, still kind of a new chart. All I can see is it's above support, and the resistance is at that 0.00000201. Right. That's resistance. That's support. So it's currently at support. If that support gets lost, it'll be the same situation that I just mentioned, that it could go back down to these levels and retest those lows. But so far, so good. So it's just in a range right now. Nothing too excited, but it's still in a downtrend. So I don't like charts in a downtrend. I like charts that are in an uptrend. So that's my personal opinion. And PRQ. Yeah, I don't need the dollar sign. It's fine. PRQ tether. Okay. All right. Yeah, let's use, I like KuCoin better. So yeah, PRQ, we got 1 minute for the open. So I'm just going to do this one as the last one here. And then we'll look at some of the markets. But yeah, essentially it's in a range on the daily chart. There's support, there's resistance at 6.069, right? So just stuck in a range, still in a downtrend as well. It's got to break above the baseline to get any kind of bullish momentum, and then possibly can go higher. So yeah, there's that. All right, and the market is going to open in 30 seconds. Let's just take a look at some of these. So we'll start with the QQQ. Yeah, that's up 0.87 cents. Yeah, it's approaching the baseline there on the daily chart. But yeah, it's really good to look at it because it's back within the cloud. So that's good to see for a possible continuation on the daily QQQ. And there we go. The market is open. And so here we go. Yeah, so ARC is up a little bit. Palantir is still going higher. SMCI is still going higher. Let's take a look at SMCI here. Yeah, so SMCI it opened the day finally on the top side of the conversion line. So that means probably the 557 level. There should be some support now for price to continue higher. So I think any kind of weakness down there could be an opportunity to buy because, like I mentioned before, when I go to SMCI here on my linear scale chart, right here, it's back above my blue level, right? And I love seeing that. And if it closes the week above it, then I think that can hold for a continuation higher and higher. But you still have the resistance above right now of that cloud, right? That's why you're seeing a little bit of selling down because of that cloud. But if it can break it, then there's a possibility to get to the 600s above, around 662. So I do like this for momentum. And especially on the daily chart here, you can see that it's flipping that conversion line to a support. So I can really see it go up all the way even to the 700s there. But the weekly chart is probably going to get in the way before that, because you can see that this bottom or the top of the cloud there is at 660, right? So that's going to be some resistance right there. But it's a good setup, and it looks like the bottom has been found of that blue angle so far. And Google is down, not a surprise. Crowd is up. Tesla, where's Tesla at? Yeah, it's around flat. NVDA is up $2. Microsoft up. I think someone mentioned CLSK before. I forgot about that. And yeah, so essentially linear scale is looking like this. It held that red angle as support. Log scale, it looks a little bit different, but this is essentially working its way back up to the 13 zone, where I think it's possible to get to like 13.5, 13.6. but then that angle will run into some resistance there. But essentially a support has been found, which is a good thing, but I think there's a lot of resistance above. So just got to take it one day at a time, 1 week at a time. And what about ADMA? ADMA Bio. Okay, this one's exploding. Weekly chart. Yeah, it's getting extended, right? It's getting pretty far away from the cloud down here. It's getting far away from the conversion line baseline. So essentially, I'm not a momentum chaser. I like to get in before the momentum happens, right? And you can see really when it was below everything, and then it started to get above all the indicators there. That was the time to really get in. Not really right now, because it's more dangerous there. It's more risky, right? And these are why I'm doing these daily updates, so you can spot things like this. When it starts to get above all the indicators, then that's when you want to buy these, right? You don't want to buy falling knives, and you don't really want to chase. So I can see this continuing to go higher, but it's just gambling at that point. I like to be more certain, and I think if it's gonna retrace, it's gonna retrace pretty hard down to the 13s, possibly down to the 11s. So just got to keep your eye on that. So gold. Yeah, we can look at gold. Yeah, gold. Oh, actually, let's see. We'll go to my monthly chart. Yeah. Cat loves falling knives, though. Yes, sometimes he does. Yeah, I mean, falling knives can be good if they are forming kind of a base, but if they're not forming a base, then that's not really a good thing. So, but gold is 100% bullish, and it's also very symmetrical. I can just show you my Gann chart without any indicators, just to show you guys how beautiful it's been, right? Essentially, once it broke above the orange level to the 45, back to the orange, even back to the blue angle there, now it's breaking another level, right? It's breaking my blue level up top for gold. And last month it closed above, and this month these are monthly candles. It is continuing higher. So that's a really good sign for gold. GDX. The gold miners, that's a different story though, right? That's a downtrend, right? You don't even need any indicators to see that it's still a bunch of higher or lower highs right here, lower highs. But this is actually the first higher high from here. So that's kind of like a change of a market character right there. But the real indicators, let's see what they say. Yeah, it's above both. Again, it's above everything, I should say. But it's just battling. It seems to be that it's just battling this, right? It's trying to break out, but it can't. And the future cloud is even still red. So that's just indicator that I might still want to trend down a little bit. You can see there's just a lot of resistance with these previous candles here. And essentially that's the monthly chart. But on the weekly chart, it's still back above the conversion line there. So there is a possibility that can hold as a support. And that is at 36.12. So essentially, I would just watch that 36.12 level and make sure the week closes above. If that happens, then there's a possibility to continue higher and break these highs, and then eventually break these highs up here into the 39s and 40s. So those are your resistance levels. All right. Back to, look at Shopify. It's looking beautiful. Yeah, it's looking like it wants to go to the 45-degree angle up there. And before that, the top of the cloud there sits around 75. I did own this one. I bought it in the 60s and the 50s, but I did sell it a little bit too soon on the way up when it got to these resistance levels. So that's fine. It happens, but I'm happy with the profit. So you can never be like, oh no, so you can just take your wins and move on. But this one is great. I like how it's on top of the baseline there, back on top of the cloud, back on top of the arc there, and it just looked like it wants to go to 75. That's what it really looks like. And then if that breaks, it's going to go to 80s. I think that's going to be the ultimate target, like 81 or 82. I think that's going to be it. And yeah, let's look at Enphase because this one is just a ticking time bomb waiting to explode higher, in my opinion. Like, look at that. The future cloud is green. That's a good indicator that the trend is reversing, right? It is sloping down a little bit right there, so you got to be cautious. But look at this. It's just right in this top arc as a resistance. It's underneath the cloud. It's underneath everything. Like, there's so much resistance. Like, you even add the 50 MA on there as well, right? That green 50 MA, it's under that too. So it's just like one day, 1 week, it's just gonna explode past it, and probably a bullish engulfing candle, and then flip that cloud to a support, and then just go to 150. That's all. That's what I can see with end phase. Like, I don't like charts at resistance, but I like this chart at resistance simply because support is really close. Like, support is right there at 101. So who cares? Like, 111, 101 for this kind of a stock, that doesn't even matter. So I normally don't advocate stocks around resistance, but this one is a different story in my opinion because it's so close to support. So close. All right. So yeah, the miners, they're kind of flat for the day, a little bit up. ARK is around flat. Tesla is down $2. But yeah, that's just doing what is expected. It's going back down towards that 204.90, which is the baseline. Not a surprise at all. But I think that could hold. But the moving averages are showing what's really happening with resistance, right? The 206, the 208. So it's got some work to do. But whether it's today, tomorrow, next week, it doesn't really matter. The good news is this 198 held, and I really want to see a weekly candle close above that 204.90. So that's the level I'm watching for the rest of the week. Don't really care about anything else, just that level right there. But I think, yeah, those are the levels for the morning. I think I'm going to wrap it up, and nothing really scary out there. Just everything is normal. And a lot of things are approaching resistance, but a lot of things already found support too. So just take it one day at a time. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.